Good evening, and welcome to our daily devotional reading. A reminder that we are reading through all the undisputed dialogues of Plato, in other words, the dialogues that most scholars agree that it has actually been written by Plato himself. We will do that in one year. This will be the year in search of truth. I have done the allocation from this book, this collection of Plato's work. So I will be reading from a free online version of Plato's work so that those who want to follow along can do so easily. And if you feel like reading ahead, of course, that's always also encouraged. I will share, of course, the link will be available in the description. That all being said, let's quiet down, calm your heart and your mind, forget about the struggles of the day, the struggles of life. And let's just listen to Plato. We're starting with Euthyphro. It's set at the porch of the king Archon, which is basically the law courts, the place where Socrates was summoned when he was accused of the two things that would eventually lead to his death. Euthyphro. Why have you left the Lyceum, Socrates? And what are you doing in the porch of the king Archon? Surely you cannot be concerned in a suit before the king, like myself. Not in a suit, Euthyphro. Impeachment is the word which the Athenians use. Euthyphro. What? I suppose that someone has been prosecuting you, for I cannot believe that you are the prosecutor of another. Certainly not, Socrates says. Euthyphro. Then someone else has been prosecuting you, Socrates. Yes, Euthyphro. And who is he? Socrates. A young man who is little known, Euthyphro, and I hardly know him. His name is Meletus, and he is of the deme of Pythis. Perhaps you may remember his appearance. He has a beak, and long straight hair, and a beard which is ill-grown. Euthyphro. No, I do not remember him, Socrates. But what is the charge which he brings against you? Socrates. What is the charge? Well, a very serious charge, which shows a good deal of character in the young man, and for which he is certainly not to be despised. He says he knows how the youth are corrupted, and who are their corrupters. I fancy that he must be a wise man, and seeing that I am the reverse of a wise man, he has found me out and is going to accuse me of corrupting his young friends. And of this our mother the state is to be the judge. Of all our political men, he is the only one who seems to me to begin in the right way, with the cultivation of virtue in youth. Like a good caretaker, he makes the young shoots his first care, and clears away us who are the destroyers of them. This only is his first step. He will afterwards attend to the elder branches, and if he goes on as he has begun, he will be a very great public benefactor. Euthyphro. I hope that it might be, but I rather fear, Socrates, that the opposite will turn out to be the truth. My opinion is that in attacking you, he is simply aiming a blow at the foundation of the state. But in what way does he say that you corrupt the youth? Socrates. He brings a wonderful accusation against me, which at first hearing excites surprise. He says that I am a poet or maker of gods, and that I invent new gods and deny the existence of old ones. This is the ground of his indictment. I understand, Socrates, Euthyphro responds. He means to attack you about the familiar sign which you occasionally, as you say, have come to you. He thinks that you are a neologian, and he is going to have you up before the court for this. He knows that such a charge is readily received by the world, as I myself know too well. For when I speak in the assembly about divine things and foretell the future to them, they laugh at me and think me a madman. Yet every word that I say is true. But they are jealous of us all, and we must be brave and go at them. Their laughter, friend Euthyphro, Socrates responds, is not a matter of much consequence. For a man may be thought wise, but the Athenians, I suspect, do not much trouble themselves about him until he begins to impart his wisdom to others, and then for some reason or other, perhaps as you say from jealousy, they are angry. I am never likely to meet their temper in this way, Euthyphro said. And then Socrates responds, I dare say not. For you are reserved in your behavior and seldom impart your wisdom. But I have a benevolent habit of pouring out myself to everybody, and would even pay a listener. And I am afraid that the Athenians may think me too talkative. Now if, as I was saying, they would only laugh at me, as you say that they laugh at you, the time might pass gaily enough in the court, but perhaps they may be in earnest, and then what the end will be, you soothsayers only can predict. I dare say that the affair will end in nothing, Socrates, Euthyphro responds, and that you will win your case. And I think that I shall win my own. And what is your suit, Euthyphro? Socrates asked. Are you the pursuer, the prosecutor, or the defendant? Euthyphro, I am the pursuer. Socrates, of whom? Euthyphro, you will think me mad when I tell you. Socrates, why? Has the fugitive wings? Euthyphro, nay, he is not very volatile at this time in his life. Socrates, who is he? My father. Socrates, your father, my good man. Euthyphro, yes. Socrates, and of what is he accused? Euthyphro, of murder, Socrates. Socrates, by the powers, Euthyphro, how little does the common herd know of the nature of right and truth. man must be an extraordinary man and have made great strides in wisdom before he could have seen his way to bring such an action. Euthyphro. Indeed, Socrates, he must. Socrates. I suppose that the man whom your father murdered was one of your relatives. Clearly he was, for if he had been a stranger, you would never have thought of prosecuting him. Euthyphro. I am amused, Socrates, at your making a distinction between one who is a relation and one who is not a relation. For surely the pollution is the same in either case. If you knowingly associate with a murderer when you ought to clear yourself and him by proceeding against him, the real question is whether the murdered man has been justly slain. If justly, then your duty is to let the matter alone. But if unjustly, then even if the murderer lives under the same roof with you and eats at the same table, proceed against him. Now the man who is dead was a poor dependent of mine who worked for us as a field labourer on our farm in Naxos. And one day in a fit of drunken passion he got into a quarrel with one of our domestic servants and slew him. My father bound him hand and foot and threw him into a ditch, and then sent to Athens to ask of a diviner what he should do with him. Meanwhile he never attended to him and took no care about him, for he regarded him as a murderer, and thought that no great harm would be done even if he did die. Now this was just what happened, for such was the effect of cold and hunger and chains upon him, that before the messenger returned from the diviner, he was dead. And my father and family are angry with me for taking the part of the murderer and prosecuting my father. They say that he did not kill him, and that if he did, the dead man was but a murderer, and I ought not to take any notice, for that a son is impious who prosecutes a father. Which shows, Socrates, how little they know what the gods think about piety and impiety. Socrates. Good heavens, Euthyphro! And is your knowledge of religion and of things pious and impious so very exact that, supposing the circumstances to be as you state them, you are not afraid lest you too may be doing an impious thing and bringing an action against your father? Euthyphro. The best of Euthyphro, and that which distinguishes him, Socrates, from other men, is his exact knowledge of all such matters. What should I be good for without it? Socrates. Rare friend, I think that I cannot do better than be your disciple. Then before the trial with Meletus comes on, I shall challenge him and say that I have always had a great interest in religious questions, and now, as he charges me with rash imaginations and innovations in religion, I have become your disciple. You, Meletus, as I shall say to him, acknowledge Euthyphro to be a great theologian and sound in his opinions, and if you approve of him, you ought to approve of me, and not have me into court. But if you disapprove, you should begin by indicting him who is my teacher, and who will be the ruin not of the young, but of the old, that is to say, of myself, whom he instructs, and of his old father, whom he admonishes and chastises. And if Meletus refuses to listen to me, but will go on, and will not shift the indictment from me to you, I cannot do better than repeat his challenge in the court. Repeat this challenge in the court. Euthyphro. Yes, indeed, Socrates. And if he attempts to indict me, I am mistaken if I do not find a flaw in him. The court shall have a great deal more to say to him than to me. Socrates. And I, my dear friend, knowing this, am desirous of becoming your disciple. For I observe that no one appears to notice you, not even this Meletus. But his sharp eyes have found me out at once, and he has indicted me for impiety. And therefore I adjure you to tell me the nature of piety and impiety, which you said that you knew so well, and of murder, and of other offences against the God. What are they? Is not piety in every action always the same? And impiety, again, is it not always the opposite of piety, and also the same with itself? Having as impiety one notion which includes whatever is impious. Euthyphro. To be sure, Socrates. Thus far our scripture reading of the day. I think it is very appropriate that we should start with Euthyphro. It wasn't my intention, but the irony is not lost on me. The fact that Euthyphro considers himself a master in all things divine. And just to be clear, because it might not be clear, Socrates is mocking him. Socrates does not actually think that Euthyphro is such a divine master. It's just not Socrates' style. His style is to find those who claim to have wisdom and absolute knowledge and to question them until it becomes clear that they do not even in fact know that they do not know. So Socrates is mocking me on this very first day. And I am humbled appropriately. There's a few things that stood out to me. Some things that I might mention that those who don't, I'm going to assume no knowledge of Plato, because that is the safest. That way we can include everyone, and those who do have knowledge can enter the state of the fool again and learn anew what they already forgot. Socrates is accused of, here explicitly, impiety and inventing new gods. And Euthyphro refers to the sign that comes to him. We will hear more about the sign in the Apology, which is the next book that we will read. It's his daimon, who apparently, that's what I heard, I can't remember actually reading it in Plato himself, always simply advised him no. He would never tell him do this or do that, but sometimes when Socrates wanted to do something, there was a voice that told him no. And he was always following this voice. So that's the sign that Euthyphro refers to. The new gods charge is also not so absurd. If you read The Republic, comes to mind immediately. Socrates was and Plato was, it's difficult to tell where one ends and the other begins, of course. They were both really great fans of Homer and very much against Homer at the same time. And a beef that Socrates had with Homer especially was his portrayal of the gods as basically big humans, full of deception and cruelty and lust and all things vicious. If you read the Greek mythology, you will know how horrible the Greek gods could be. And this is what Socrates protested against. He wanted to view the gods as good and wise and different from our mere mortals. So one could actually make a case that he did invent new deities. It's not that far-fetched. Was that the real reason why he was brought to justice? Probably not. He did piss off quite a few powerful people. So that was probably jealousy, I don't know, but hurt egos, maybe. About Euthyphro, because to our minds it might seem like the guy is doing the right thing. He's choosing the case of the weaker against the stronger. His patriarchy, I can't even say the word. His father, who is the leader and the rightful authority in the home. The Greeks would not have seen it like that, I am quite sure. The honoring your father was pretty important to Greek piety. And so it is an odd case that Euthyphro is making. One could claim then, oh, he's ahead of his time. But I don't think that was Plato's idea when he would try to portray him like this, because clearly his father had really a good case. Like, the man already murdered someone else, and his dad did not actively kill him, though he did actively kill another. It was purely neglect, and his father tried to do the right thing by sending someone to the diviner to know what should be done with this man. So his father was probably not in the wrong, and Euthyphro then very much is in the wrong for persecuting his father. Plus, a simple thing to point out, Euthyphro considers himself a master of all things divine, a knower of what the gods want and of the future. And he claims that Socrates has no need to worry. He will win his case. Clearly, he does not see the future. I have a few other things written down, but I think what I want to do is reread one sentence. How little does the common herd know of the nature of right and truth. A man must be an extraordinary man and have made great strides in wisdom before he could have seen his way to bring such an action. Socrates is obviously not saying that Euthyphro really has made these strides, but he's saying that Euthyphro must think of himself as someone who has. And Socrates disagrees, most likely, because in every other case, when someone claims to know the truth, he managed to prove them wrong. So what is truth? Can we know truth? I have called this the year in search of truth. What do I mean with that? I love truth. I've always been obsessed with truth. But there's been a switch in my understanding of truth over the last couple of years. And it is mostly due to the work of John Vervaeke and his 4 P's of knowing. I don't want to make this too complicated, but I'll just briefly say the 4 P's is the propositional knowing, the perspectival knowing. No, that's the second one. The procedural knowing is the second. No. Let's start from the beginning. The propositional knowing, the procedural knowing, the perspectival knowing, and the participatory knowing. John himself says that propositional knowing concerns truth. All of them together, and then especially the participatory knowing, is concerned with a sense of realness. And I think that's what truth has become to me. What is real? That is the question. What is? And what is a question that resounds through all of Plato's work. Every dialogue comes back to this. What is courage, friendship, love? I do not want to spend this year looking for propositional truth. So I don't want to know truth claims, facts, knowledge that is propositional. Knowledge that this is a book, an awesome book. I want to work on the others. Procedural knowing. So how do I do something? And probably along the way we will find other things that we can also learn in our search for truth. What comes to mind at this stage is, how do I learn how to speak philosophically? How to practice philosophy? That's one skill I hope that we will learn. Perspectival knowledge. What it's like to be. I have this book on wisdom recommended by John. I haven't read all of it, and I have read it a very long time ago, but I remembered something about perspective taking being part of wisdom, and I didn't find what I was looking for, but I found something else. So I'm going to read like a sentence. The primary tool that researchers rely on to boost wise reasoning is ego decentering or self-distancing, which involves reflecting on an issue from an observer perspective rather than the perspective of an immersed participant. So it's being able to shift your perspective is quite an important measurement for wisdom. I don't know how we will learn it, but that is something I hope that we do learn. And then the participatory learning. I have experience with the dialectic in Dialogos that John and Christopher developed, that the search for what is questions in Plato is not so much a search for definitions for the sake of definitions. It's trying to really understand the virtue so that you can become the virtue, so that the virtue can become part of your character. I want to participate with Plato and his perspectives on virtues. And see what happens. I'm curious to hear what you think, what you hope to learn from a year in search of truth with Plato. I wish we were in an actual monastery, then I could say, hey, let's grab a cup of tea or cocoa and discuss this, but we're not. So please do share your comments, your thoughts, your feelings. Let's learn together. And who knows, maybe at the end of the year, we will be a little bit closer to wisdom. I will end each session with a blessing. Please feel free to respond with you, because I myself can very much use the blessing. Of course, if you don't want to, that's also good. So until we meet again, may the spirit of Sophia be with you.